Hello, Namaste. In a series of tweets, US President Mr. Donald Trump has expressed his desire to negotiate with Russia and also his desire to end the conflict in Ukraine. He mentions desire in a tweet where he mentioned about Russia's role in helping US in winning World War II and the state of Russian economy, the casualties suffered by Russian army, and Mr. Putin. He says Mr. Putin is his friend who wants to end the war and all sorts of things. But he also threatened Russia that if they don't negotiate in 100 days or end the war, he will is going to impose more sanctions on Russia. Later, he also announced that he asked OPEC countries to reduce the oil prices. If oil prices go down, the Russian economy will not be able to do so well and the war will end again. So he's linked a reduction in oil prices with Russia's Russia's uh, performance in war in Ukraine. So what's the Russian point of view on all of this? As far as I understood, based on my interaction with Russian colleagues and the commentary on their social media, Russians didn't take these kind of tweets seriously. They think that Mr. Trump say one thing one day, another thing another day, and he hasn't provided any concrete proposal on what to discuss officially. So we'll try to decode in those 5 points what Russians are saying and Russian point of view, and we'll see if the conflict can really be end by the initiative taken by Mr. Donald Trump through tweets. In this video, we'll discuss every point one by one, the World War II analogy used in the tweet, and sanctions on Russia post 2022 and their impact on Russia. This is being mentioned as one of the driver by Mr. Trump, and the fear in US circles about de-dollarizations and what's the current state of war in Ukraine, what's happening, and what's the current thinking in Russian government or Russian public about this war as such. So let's go. In his tweet, Mr. Donald Trump has said that Soviet Union, or a lot of people say Russia, has helped United States to win the World War II. Now let's debunk this tweet, which is so misleading. Now, United States did not win the World War II. Its allied powers, like so many countries, in which United States was part of it. It was one of those countries. There were plenty of countries which were fighting the Axis powers. And when you talk about World War II, for example, which is mentioned in the street, United States was not involved in the war till, if I'm not wrong, till 1941, when Japan attacked US forces in Pearl Harbor. So that was 1941, and World War II started in 1939. So US came very late in the war, and it's not like it's became part of what is already happening between Britain, France, and other powers against the German Empire, Italian Empire, and Japanese Empire. Because on the same day of attacking Pearl Harbor, Japanese forces also invaded or bombed the Philippines. Till before that, I think Americans were not very much aware, or they were not interested of what's happening in the China, mainland China, which was attacked by Imperial Japanese force at that time. So I think this analogy is completely wrong. It's completely misinterpretation of historical facts. And he also said that the Soviet Union casualties, it's like I think it's 600 million, something like that. He quoted a huge number. That's not even correct. Even by most conservative overestimate estimates, it's like 50% of what he's quoted. So it's not correct. Also, the casualty figures he quoted in his tweet, and we don't have to forget that it's a Red Army which stormed in Berlin. They defeated Nazis in Europe. It's a fact, established fact. Nobody can deny it. And Russians are very proud of it. They celebrate Victory Day parade every year for this. So you cannot really say that United States won the war just because it's depicted in Hollywood movies. It's incorrect. There are so many countries so many colonies of British Empire, including India, which has sent soldiers and they suffered huge casualties. So you cannot own that part of history just one country. So that's factually incorrect. The second part of Mr. Trump's tweet has said that Russia has suffered badly. The economy is doing not so very well. Uh, Again, that's not correct because if we look at a lot of figures, then Russian economy is doing extremely well. European economies are undergoing recession or they're getting stagnant or the mood is so down in a negative in many European countries. But Russian economy not just survived sanction, but they have grown. And as per IMF and World Bank and so many other estimates, they are fourth currently in terms of purchasing power parity in the world. It's a fourth number, way above so many NATO countries, so many G7 countries, so many European Union countries. So and the economy is growing. They found new markets for their products. They established new trade linkages with other countries, those who need oil and gas once they were cut off from the Western markets, and they were able to um, find ways to indigenize. Let's say anything which they cannot buy, they cannot get it. They try to build it on their own, and it's going well so far. They're able to do a lot of good things in Russia itself, and they don't have a problem of not having money. They have a problem of inflation because they have too much money, and it's just they cannot invest anywhere except in Russia. So that's other problem. Inflation is another problem because they are in the wartime economy mode. So, but they are not really struggling economy wise. That's what the U.S. President tweet says. On the other side, U.S. debt is out of control. It's 36 trillion debt, and they have so less money to invest on their own development work for the people. So the biggest problem at the moment is not Russia's economy is collapsing or something. It's U.S. debt. It's essentially U.S. is a bankrupt country, and they have to figure out a way so that they can use the money they are generating from taxes for their own people, not to pay interest on the money they have borrowed already. And the last point is Mr. Trump threatened Russia of more sanctions if Russia does not sit on the table. What more they can do? I mean, US, Russia survived the most punishing sanctions in the history of mankind from the past 3 years and thrived. What more US government can impose upon them? It's not much to impose. There's nothing more you can do if on a sanctioned country which is already sanctioned a lot. I think one of the statements Mr. Trump made that he's going to impose tariffs on BRICS countries, those who oppose the dollar as a reserve currency or go for de-dollarization. Russia is one of those countries which are going with this idea of reducing trade in dollar or completely eliminating it altogether. Because US dollar is a reserve currency, and any country which is trading with somebody else, they need to use US dollar for trading. So that gives US government unlimited power to impose sanctions, to track finances, to do a lot of things. And the idea that Russia is able to trade without dollar in the future. Right now, they're still trading with some dollar because of they're still trading with Western countries in some areas, not much. But the idea of US dollar, if Russia is able to do it, which Russia, China, and other countries, they're already thinking about using their own currency to trade with each other, thereby reducing the usage of dollar, then dollar dominance will go away. The de-dollarization may actually happen, and the dollar dominance may go away, and all the leverages US government may have on other countries will completely vanish. Nobody will care if US government want to sanction somebody or not because they are not using dollar as a way to trade. So Russia is one of those countries which is supporting this idea. They supported this. They raised this in the BRICS forum. They raised this in SCO forums, and every forum they are raising this voice. So I think U.S. government is scared or alarmed if Russia is able to successfully rally other countries about this idea, and that will completely reduce the influence of U.S. government. So They are also once desperate to settle this conflict so that they can patch up with Russia and reestablish the relationship so that Russia will not pursue this path along with China and other countries. So that's what they're trying to. And Russia has also floated the idea of multipolarity. The multipolarity is like it's like the, I think it's the word is against Western hegemony. Like the Western world, which has colonized the planet and which has ruled the world for like 200, 300 years, for the past 200, 300 years. Now its monopoly has been, its influence, its monopoly is vanishing and its influence is going down. So Russia is saying that the countries which are emerging economies like India, Turkey, Indonesia, Brazil, South Africa, these countries needs to have a more voice in the global affairs. The UN Security Council is an obsolete body which was funded post World War II based on that time structure. But the current realities have changed. So these countries, these big economies, need to have their voice to be heard in global matters. And that's why they call it this multipolarity. Not one country, not one bloc being ruling the world or making decisions on behalf of the world. So these are, they are saying these things, and they're also floating the idea of new financial systems, financial systems, in the sense that the SWIFT system has been weaponized. That's what Russians are saying, that it's been weaponized. So they are floating the idea, let's have a system which other countries can work without the fear of being sanctioned by other countries. So I think this de-dollarization, multipolarity, and reducing the monopoly of single financial systems, using dollar as a reserve currency, and all the international institutions favoring Western countries is the idea being floated by Russia. So that's alarmed Western thinkers and Western politicians and elites. That if something like this to happen, then the influence of West will go away ultimately, and they will find it something, they're not able to grasp this, that this can happen. So they want to prevent it, and one of these best ways is to settle with Russia. Now let's talk about war front. Mr. Trump has told that Russia is have received a lot of casualties, and Mr. Putin wants to stop this war. Everybody wants to stop this war. Well, Russia is winning at the moment. They have the momentum, they have the initiative, and they are advancing on various fronts. As per all the reports you can see on Western media, uh, or any media you trust, they are all saying the same thing, that Russia has initiative and they're advancing. And so, as such, a side which is winning and which is a which has an initiative and they are the stronger side, they negotiate on their own terms. They don't they don't need to be told. They cannot accept terms and condition told by somebody other side. So on a war front, Russia is advancing, and they have converted their entire economy into wartime economy. And it's admitted by a lot of NATO generals that Russia is producing three times more in a month what they can produce in entire year. So that's the power of Russia's industrial might at the moment. So they are in a very strong position. Russia is in a very strong position, and they, you cannot really threaten them with the tweets and all. And you need to have very solid proposals to ask them to sit on negotiating table. That's what I think Russians are thinking at the moment. When you talk about current situations, regardless of tweet, so Mr. Trump has tweeted that he is intending to negotiate with Mr. Putin and he wants to talk to him. But he also threatened in a single tweet that if he will not sit down, then he will impose more sanctions. That's a threat. And he also said that he wants OPEC countries to reduce the oil prices. So if oil prices will reduce, then the Russian's economy will fall and the war will stop. Something like that he said. Now, Russia will not like this kind of statements. It's like openly saying something. If you want to negotiate, you need to come with some concrete plan in a private, not public. You say something but have something else in mind. So if you have some, Russians are saying that if you want to have a negotiation, we are never against negotiation. Russia continues to say we are up for negotiation, we're ready to talk, but you need to accept the ground realities. The current ground realities are that we occupy, or we have certain regions of Ukraine, part of Russian Federation. They need to be accepted now, and they want NATO neutrality and also reduction of Ukraine armed forces. And in all these possibilities, they don't want ceasefire. They will not go for ceasefire. The talks will go on, but unless some concrete guarantees happen, Russians will not stop advancing in Ukraine. So that's the current situation, and I just wanted to tell you that this entire perceptual difference is it's visible. What Russians want from US side and what US government think Russians are in a position, it's completely different. US government has a complete different understanding of ground realities, which is not correct. And they are using all sorts of this social media tweets and all these things will not help in when you want to have a negotiation. That's what Russians are saying. If you want to negotiate, you should be serious, and you should stop giving coordinates of Russian military complexes to Ukrainian military, because they are targeting Russian mainland with drones and all. So Russia is saying that if you're serious, stop giving coordinates, or stop giving providing weapons, or tell your NATO allies, Germany, France, not to provide trainings to Ukrainian armed forces. That's not happening. And Russia is also saying that if you are serious, then tell Elon Musk to stop supplying internet or stop providing services of Starlink to Ukrainian armed forces in Ukraine, because Ukrainian army is using a Starlink to communicate in the battlefield. So the Russian point of view is very simple. You are saying a lot of things on social media publicly, but not offering anything concrete. And if you are really serious, discuss with us privately with a concrete offer and accept the ground realities. Things have changed since 2022. This sanctions threat and this the misguided World War II analogy and this economic situations which is bad in US, not in Russia, they are not going to work. So if this kind of situation prevail, continue, then I guess there will not be any negotiation. The war will continue, unfortunately, and we may not see the resolution of this conflict even during Trump presidency in the near future. The way Mr. Trump has tweeted, it doesn't seem like he even understood Russia's position from Russian point of view.